Britain's most notorious artist, Tracey Emin. But is she anything like you imagine? Welcome to One-on-One. My guest is the artist Tracey Emin. Hi Tracey, how you doing?
Hi George, nice house. Glad to see you didn't snort it all up your nose.
If you're going to do a personal ad, what would you say about yourself?
It changes from year to year. I mean, a few years ago I would have had like anorexia, alcoholic.
Seeking?
Not similar, yeah. Someone to look after me really, with a washing machine, that's what I would have wanted. Someone.
What about now?
Now I think if it was a personal ad, yeah, mature woman, 40-ish, likes cats. But there's nothing I really need actually. So I think with personal ads, it's more like what you want from the other person.
You're with a partner now?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm really happy. That's why it's quite difficult to get my head around.
So how long have you been together?
About 5 years. Yeah, on and off, split up a couple of times, but that's what happened.
And he's also an artist as well?
Yeah.
Do you get jealous of each other?
No, we don't actually. That's one of the really good things. I think if I was with someone who wasn't an artist, they wouldn't understand my lifestyle or what I have to do. And being with someone in the same field as your work means that you have a sympathy for each other, and even though it can be a little bit claustrophobic sometimes, you also give each other a lot of space when you need it.
What about that thing of being a successful woman and in a relationship? Is that tough?
I think if for anyone it's tough if you're successful, because it's like I have to take a lot more responsibility. It's going back to that driving thing, you know, someone's got to drive the car, and I'm always driving, and that does my head in a little bit.
But you like being in control? Yeah,
I do, I realise that, and that's why I don't like drinking. I can't believe I used to drink so much, because it's like not a very good way to be in control about anything.
I was out drinking last night, and I can tell you it's not a good look. Thank God for makeup. I mean, obviously I met you when you were 16 in Margate.
Well, you didn't meet me in Margate, you met me in London, in Blitz.
Oh really?
Probably. No. I really liked, absolutely no memory whatsoever, yeah. Yeah, but that's where I think you would have met me the first time, and then going down to Margate and that kind of thing.
Did you ever imagine that you would be in a position that you are now?
No, but I had some kind of like ambition about things, and I think I just knew that. I mean, I think I worked in when I first came to London, I worked in Sasha's shoe shop, and I knew this wasn't going to be my great vocation in life. And I think the more and more sort of hip people that I met, the more, it wasn't like I sort of was a bit starstruck. I just kept thinking to myself, what have they got going for them that I haven't? And this is when I was 16, I was actually, you know, there was people like you around. You weren't famous then, but everybody knew who you were. I mean, you weren't a household name. But I just knew I just didn't want an everyday lifestyle. And I also knew that I wanted to work for myself. And the art thing and being creative, I mean, I was artistic, I was creative. I left school at 15, and that's what I concentrated on.
A lot of your work is really, really personal. You kind of wear your art on your sleeve. Do you ever get reactions from like ex-lovers or people that you've kind of used in your work?
The main thing was with the tent, when I had the names of everyone I've ever slept with from 1963 to 1995. There was one ex-boyfriend that came up, and it was at the ICA, and he had such a go at me. He said, "You don't use my name, you know, in your work and everything." I said, "Well, you shouldn't have slept with me then, should you?" It's that simple. And the worst thing is, in the tent, when I made the tent, I was on a sort of moral high ground, because as far as I was concerned, I hadn't actually done anything wrong. And by putting all the names of everybody down, whether or not it was an illicit affair or this or that, I felt totally morally above it all, which now I don't think I can only make one tent anyway, but I don't think I'd ever make a piece of work like that again.
Well, I guess, you know, people feel that if you're, you know, talking about them and they're sort of, you know, they're not part of that world anymore, that you're kind of abusing them. I mean, I don't know, I absolutely think it's a good thing to do. That's what I do in my music. I always think that it's important to just tell the truth.
Yeah.
And what was interesting when I did my book was that, you know, people I thought I'd been really nice about hated me. And people I thought I'd been quite cruel about came up and kissed me. It was a really weird contradiction. You know, you never know what reactions people are going to have to work like that.
Well, I think it's the same with my tent. There were some people that said, oh, I'm so happy my name's in there, you know, and they were just like a really bad, you know, one night stand, but they were just really proud to be there. It was like really good.
I think it's an honour. I mean, I think if someone writes a song about you, even if it's really scathing, I think I'd be quite pleased if someone wrote a song about
I don't know, it depends who the person is.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people I just wouldn't want to be associated with in any way, shape or form. So maybe people feel like that about me. They don't want any association with me. Maybe that's what happened with your book, because time had passed and people lost that association. And maybe they didn't play on your celebrity or your status when you were, dare I say,
a pop star.
A pop
you can
star,
say it.
yeah.
We have that line in
Yeah,
Taboo actually.
yeah.
Didn't used to be a pop star. So don't worry, I'm not offended. What do you think the public perception of you is?
I think the public perception of me is really wrong. I mean, I think, and that's mainly because the media set up and everything. People think I'm just going to be this sort of. I did a talk on Saturday in Sheffield for art and education, and people thought I was just going to turn up pissed, you know, with my knickers around my neck or something, you know, screaming and being abusive, and people even, some people were really annoyed that I was going to be the guest speaker because they said, what did I know about art and education? So people don't expect that there's another side of me or whatever.
Do you find that actually having that reputation works in your favour, because when people do meet you, they're pleasantly surprised that you're not...
Yeah, she's really nice, she's really sweet. And often when I get invited to do things like interviews and things like this, and as soon as I get there, you know, a bottle of vodka's open, the bottles of champagne are, you know, come out, and it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think, what are they doing? You know, I want a cup of tea.
Do you tend to kind of act on your sort of immediate feelings?
No, I'm a lot more calculated than that.
You are?
Yeah, I wouldn't be where I am now if I wasn't, would I?
I do this test when I interview people, and basically it's a sort of really old Japanese form of astrology called 9-key, and your numbers are 142. It sounds like a bus.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah, bus. Yeah.
Everyone says that. But it's funny because the first number is actually quite sort of outgoing and quite, you know, likes to take risks, and the last number 2 is quite conservative. So there is a part of you that's quite proper. Do you think that's a fair?
Yeah, definitely. I'm sort of pretty hardcore on the conservative front. It's like, first of all, I like a really tidy home and house. Secondly, I'm monogamous. 3, I'm very loyal and faithful to friends. And another thing is I'm quite rigorous. I don't take it. And I'm very studious as well. So that's the side of me which people don't necessarily expect.
And the other element you have is wind. No, not that kind of, not that kind of wind. I mean, like, sort of, you can, if you get bored of the situation or a person, you feel like they slighted you or hurt you or whatever, you will just blow straight through and have no regrets. You won't even look back.
I've had friends in the past which, if they've upset me, or maybe it's like they've been disloyal to a point where I just think I can't cope with that, and I sort of think, you know, I don't need friends like that in my life. You have enough trouble with enemies or people that just generally dislike you for no reason. So if you have someone that's supposed to be really close to you and they betray you, then I think it makes your foundation for everything in life feel really dodgy.
Do you think you're a good business person?
Yeah, I am. I'm probably, if I wasn't an artist, I think now I'd like to go into property. That's what I'd like to do. It sounds terrible because it sounds so sort of commercial or whatever, but you can't be a good artist and just be locked up in your garret doing your watercolours or really believe in what you're doing if no one sees it. It's like with music. If you make music, people have to hear it for you to know that it's true music. It has to travel through the airwaves.
Slightly different process though, because you have to go through more channels as a musician to get your work.
It's industry, isn't it?
You've got to go through the radio and the shops. You don't really have that same kind of problem with art.
Yeah, but you still have to have an understanding how commerce works and business and the art market and all that kind of thing. There's very few people that are just, it's like acting, it's like anything, you know, you have to work really hard and understand how it all works. So it's very rare that someone's just picked up and then shown in a really good gallery. It's a long slog.
So what was the process for you?
I was just picked up and shown in the gallery. Yeah, genius, yeah. No, I mean, I went to art school and everything. You know, I did an MA in painting, got totally disillusioned with art, destroyed all my work, and then kind of started all over again. It was a hard slog. I mean, I was 30 when I had my first exhibition, which actually for these days is quite late for someone. Most people are around 24, 25 if they're good. So I was a little bit later.
When you were 16, I mean, did you really sort of want to be famous?
We all wanted to be famous.
I know the answer to that.
Yeah, all of us. I don't know, I mean, when I was 16, I was living in, come up to London, I was living in squats and things and kind of hung out a bit on the peripheral edge of the in crowd. And I just knew that I didn't want like I just didn't want a 9-to-5 lifestyle. I just knew that about me, but I didn't sort of know what I wanted to do. But I definitely knew I wanted to get out of Margate, which was good because I did that.
Did you ever want to be a rock star?
No, but a famous pop star did once ask me to be in their band, George. Yeah.
Me, yeah.
People don't believe me about that.
That's absolutely true. Well, at the time, I was just like getting loads of friends, but if they looked good, didn't know whether they could play anything, whether they had any kind of musical background.
I mean, I was 16 and I did look really young, and it was just after it was a bow wow wow kind of thing. So the idea of having a 16-year-old girl from Margate in your band, I remember you saying to me, can you play bass guitar? And I said, yeah, a little bit. I could play Paint It Black, I think, something like that. And you said, that'll do, great, there's an audition, I really want you to be in my band. It's going to be fantastic, we're going to have violins, togas, hops and all sorts. And that was your, you know.
I remember my thing at the time was that everyone had to look good.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that really good musicians are ugly, basically.
Yeah, if I was 16, I could have picked it up. You know, after a couple of years, I would have probably been able to play bass guitar adequately enough for Culture Club anyway, so.
Ooh. Mike is a good bass player.
No, I know. Yeah, I think Culture Club was a big surprise for people. The fact just how musical they were.
And Mikey was really good, very good reggae bass player. Welcome back. I'm talking to Tracey Emin about art, fashion, beauty.
That sounds terrible.
I know. If you weren't an artist, what would you be?
Well, the obvious question, I think, if all the art stuff hadn't have happened to me, it hadn't been so good, I probably would have been dead by now. I think I was in such a bad, sad, pathetic state in sort of around 1990, that kind of thing. I don't think I would have been around for a start. And I think art, I did this exhibition once called I Need Art Like I Need God. And I really meant it, not in a kind of religious sense, but it's like you lose faith, you lose all meaning of life. And then, you know, you hang in there and it kind of a little bit, it comes back. It comes back and saves, art came back and saved me. And I think if I wasn't an artist and if the art hadn't been good, I wouldn't be around now, that's for sure.
Do you think of your art as a kind of revenge against, you know, your childhood?
No, I think a lot of people say, do I make art for like cathartic reasons? And I think at the beginning I did, because the kind of art that I made at art school and when I left was so bad. I didn't like it. And it wasn't bad, it was very student work, but I knew it wasn't good enough. And then I had a couple of abortions, more or less one after the other, and I was so shell-shocked by that and off with myself because I felt kind of a failure, not about terminating the children, because I said if I die an old lady in a hotel reading my press cuttings, I'll always be grateful that I never had those children. So, you know, but on the other hand, at that time I just felt so awful and I destroyed all my work. And then it was only maybe a couple of years later that I decided that if I was going to be an artist, it had to be about something I really believed in or something which I really knew. So I just really concentrated on myself and then of course my own objects.
Sometimes with success you get complacent because you get comfortable and you get rich and you know.
But what I do every time that looks like it's happening to me, I put the stakes up and I change my lifestyle to a level which I then I keep having to run, you know, to keep up with it. You know, I can't sit back and rest on my laurels. I'm always going for the next big project or the next big thing, whether that's personal, whether it's in terms of my art. And the exhibitions that I have now, normally a big show will cost like maybe £150,000 to do, that kind of thing. So if I have a bummer of a show, then, you know, financially it's going to, you know, do me a bit of damage for a while.
Do you actually enjoy kind of like celebrity parties and that kind of thing? I mean, I do see you out occasionally.
Yeah, but I don't enjoy it so much anymore. I think I enjoyed it a lot more a few years ago, and it was all kind of like wow kind of thing, and it was just like great fun, and the parties were great fun. But as I'm getting older and I have to get up and do my work, that is actually much more important to me than what parties I go to or where I'm seen or whatever. And the other thing, as I said before, I don't like to go out 2 nights in a row.
Do you ever worry that your creativity is going to kind of like dry up? Do you ever have periods where you just can't work?
I don't have lack of ideas or lack of inspiration, but what I do have is somehow, you know, I have 3 people who work for me now permanently. I have a lot of meetings, a lot of running around to do, a lot of telephone calls, all that kind of thing, and that tends to really interfere with my day a lot, and that kind of does my head in. But I don't worry about drying up on the creative side. But I do worry about, I'd hate to become a parody of myself, because that happened to you, didn't it, George?
Happens to all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember a very famous TV incident where you were doing a little Oliver Reed number.
Yeah, but I mean, I've only ever done it once. Now, if I was to make a living out of being drunk on TV, then that would be a big. And I was inundated with to do chat shows. You know, you name it. Everyone wanted me on their show after that because they hoped by getting me on the show, their rating figures would soar because people would think, oh, is she going to be? Oh, it's the drunk woman. You know, is she going to be drunk again? But I mean, more with ideas like becoming. And I was only joking about that with you. But I was thinking about that time when you told me about. When you told me about when you'd seen a doll, a Boy George doll in a charity shop window.
It was a Snoopy Boy George.
That was it, yeah. And you it was at night time. You thought, oh, tomorrow I'm going to go back and buy that. And you went back the next day and it was gone.
I know, it was gutted.
But that was so sad. Because why didn't you have one? Do you know what I mean?
I know. There you go. I've got a couple of really funny ones, but I look like Penelope Keith. They look nothing like me. It's just so weird.
Yeah, but if you think that kind of level of fame, where you know someone can make a Snoopy Boy George.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like pushing things to a bit of an extreme, really. And I kind of like, I mean, obviously not on the same level as like super world pop stardom or whatever, but I do worry about becoming more like a brand or more like just something people associate something with instead of really understanding what I do, and that worries me.
And do you get hurt when people criticise your work?
Depends. If they're complete tossers, I don't, or whatever. But what worries me...
What makes someone with a complete tosser then?
Yeah, no, what annoys me is all these journalists that write about... They're journo journalists, you know, they're not just critics or whatever. And they spend pages and pages slagging me off. They get paid for writing that stuff, which I say pays their credit card bills, pays their mortgage, pays for their cars, pays for their mistresses. They're actually making money off of my back, and that I resent. If they don't like it, don't write about it. Champion what they like, not what they don't like. So I don't like being, I really didn't enjoy the other week being a scapegoat, you know. That's another thing. I think people use me as an example without actually understanding what I do.
You seem to have really calmed down. Oh, is this just the house?
Oh, it's great, calm, the house. It's
On
your
your
calm
throne.
presence. Yeah, exactly, I feel, yeah.
Do you think you've become a calmer person?
Yeah, much calmer,
You feel
definitely.
more in control of your life?
Well, saying that, I'm still running around like a lunatic trying to catch up with my life. But I think definitely, I don't want to bang on about it, but it's not drinking spirits anymore. I gave up drinking spirits in 1999, and that's probably one of the best things I've ever done for myself, health-wise and for my brain. You know, I'm just starting to actually recover after years and years of drinking really heavily. I mean, I don't fall over anymore. I don't, you know, before I would have been sitting here, I would have been halfway through a bottle of whiskey, and in between the, you know, the filming, I would have been going off to vomit in your loo. I would have had the mic on and we would have had the sounds, you know, and it would have been, oh, hilariously funny, but not really very good.
So you don't want to give people what they think you are?
It's not like I don't want to give that to people. I'm not that anymore. In life, you shouldn't change, but you should grow. And if you're going to grow, you should grow into something which you want to grow into, not into something you don't want to grow into.
I'll bear that in mind. Do you think you're fashion conscious or...?
No, I don't think I'm fashion conscious. I've never tried to be in fashion.
Because you did those adverts for Vivienne.
Yeah.
I remember seeing them and thinking, that must have cost Vivienne a fortune.
No, I didn't. I did it as a friend, actually.
Which is
So
cool, very cool. But I remember thinking at the time that must have cost a fortune.
no, I think people, that's another thing. But I mean, it was great for me to be in a ad campaign for Vivienne, and also there were massive billboard posters in Korea and stuff like that. So it was quite, not that I saw them, but I heard about it. So I know it's quite good being nearly 40 and then being able to be in a you know, fashion ad campaign. It's brilliant. Something
So, I
which
mean,
I never expected.
So you're not purely motivated by money then? You do things if you want to do something.
Thank you very much. No, but I've always been like this. I'll do what I want to do, and sometimes that doesn't mean to say that you're going to get paid for it. It's because you want to do it. And the thing with Vivienne is because I have great respect and regard for her. I think she's like a maverick, and she's like a true woman, a true person, and I admire her a lot. And I like the association with her. It's very symbiotic. And it's like this word muse. People go, oh, you've become a muse for Vivienne Westwood. And I go, great. You know, who wouldn't think that's great? I think it's a great compliment.
Have you ever been asked to do modelling for other people?
Yeah, I have, and normally I've said no. And I think the thing with well, I mean, I have said no. I did a Comme des Garçons thing years and years ago, but I think that's because I was an artist. That's why they wanted me, not because of what I looked like, frankly. But the thing with Vivienne, it kind of mattered. I just done a thing for Vivienne on Monday for the Times, you know, a big fashion shoot for that, which is good, as I said, like being a woman of my age and not being like a size 8 anymore, but still being able to look good in clothes. I think it's a nice thing. It's a good thing for the ego.
Okay, so an imaginary dinner party. Choose 4 people that you would.
And
ideally like to
I'm the
have.
5th person.
Yeah, 4 other people, male or female.
I think I'd quite like Mole Flanders. See, it changes every time, but I think it'd be quite interesting to have. I once said Hitler so I could go and cut his throat while he wasn't. Yeah. You could do it. You could do a few.
Wasn't quite
interesting
expecting
things.
that kind of answer, Tracy. Other than Hitler and the knife. Who
Yeah,
else?
it'd be useful, wouldn't it? If you go back in history and you have someone like that at your dinner table and then just go and cut their throat.
Or
you
just
know.
ask them why.
Yeah, why did you do that? Yeah, exactly, yeah. But I mean, I think at the moment would be Mole Flanders. Just to keep things a little bit balanced, maybe Lord Byron. And then some contemporary people. Kate Moss, she's always fun. And my nan,
Oh.
she died a few years ago. I'd like to see her again.
Well, that's a nice way to end things. Thanks a lot for talking to me. It's been really, really interesting.
Yeah,
And very calm.
thank you. It's your presence, your hangover.
It's fine.
I haven't got one. Yeah.
Oh, that makes a change.
The Gents are back on Play, where they belong. A local channel for local people.
My guest